Hello, this is Kyou of Kyou System. Oh, goodness, it's been quite a while since I've recorded one of these, hasn't it? I know I've talked a few times here and there about wanting to do more of these when I had an opportunity, but I guess there haven't been very many opportunities, or really, I just haven't made time for it, but now I think is a good opportunity. So, this specifically, if you have followed any of the updates I've posted recently on my Pleroma instance on Signal Tower, you will know that I just, earlier today, I went into my office for my day job, and I went in to turn in my 2 weeks' notice. And I didn't end up. Well, what ended up happening is my supervisor, who was not surprised to get my resignation. I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the situation now is that he proposed that I take all of my PTO before I resign altogether, just to take all my PTO. And then resign at the end of that once I exhaust all of it, so that way I can have access to my benefits a little bit longer. And I guess on the off chance that I were to change my mind about all this, I can, you can go from there when I get back. But not that I think that's too likely. But so that's where I'm at, and I have maybe around like a month's worth of vacation time left that I'm kind of burning all at once. So I've got a decent period of time, but really the main thing is like I've been at this job for 7 years, over 7 years now, and I guess it's something that, with it being something that's been a part of my life for this long, even though any sentimentality that I've had towards this job has rapidly faded, especially over the course of this year. Oh goodness, it's still. I just have this swirling mess of mixed emotions in my head over all this, which is partly why I wanted to record this, is that I can kind of talk through it and hopefully try and make a little more sense of it all. Because I don't really, it's like I don't necessarily want to bother my friends too much about all this. I've already gone on and on about it, so maybe I can just talk about it here and sort it out this way. But it's like, on one hand, I'm pretty excited, because me leaving this job is part of a series of changes that I'm making, mainly involving I want to move out of the area that I've been living in. I'm wanting to leave the job that I've been at for this long, and ideally try and move somewhere else. Okay, so ideally, right, I'll be moving to a different country entirely. I do not really want to linger here in the States for too much longer, for reasons that may or may not be obvious. Not to get into all that, but I also just the other thing with this job is that over the past couple of years, me and then all of the other employees as well have been, the pay raises that we've gotten have been under inflation. And the first time, it was already the excuse that the leadership team gave for this was already pretty flimsy. And then when they did it again, it became clear that it was not just some accident because they didn't have the numbers in front of them or anything like that. It was more a matter of, we know what we're doing, and we're deliberately not paying you, or if anything, actually paying you less because your purchasing power is decreased thanks to the power of inflation being so high. So, between that and the fact that over the past few years, most of the work that I've been doing at this job has been stuff that an intern could do, it has been very mind-numbing. And then with the prospect of them bringing me back into the office after I had been working from home for so many years, just upending my routine and everything, it was also a pretty big turnoff. And there's also the fact that I've been very burnt out, at the very least with my day job. I'm still very excited to work on like my creative projects, and that's one thing that I really want to spend some more time on once I finish reading through and judging all of the entries to the Minhera VN Jam and finish the work that I've been doing on GNU Backgammon, both of which are relatively close to completion at this point. I really want to get working on the remake of Remembrance, but that's neither here nor there. The main thing, as I've been thinking about making this big move to another country, most likely Canada, that's my current kind of target that I'm eyeing for this. But as I've been thinking about this, I've been thinking that, I've been working in a full-time capacity pretty much nonstop for like 7 years, 8 years if we count the job I had before this current one. And I didn't really take any time off after that job before starting this current one. I feel like I need a break, right? Like a sabbatical to be more specific. And what I would like to do is to take like the next few months off, maybe through the rest of the year, the end of 2024, just to try and decompress a bit before I make any kind of big move to a new job and all the stress and upheaval that will entail. Not that I think it'll be like an especially stressful like transition, but it's just a lot, and when I'm already this like burnt out and stretched thin and kind of all over the place mentally, I feel like I need some time to recover before I make that kind of major transition in my life. But I don't know. Like part of me, I'm obviously very excited, right? I've been getting pretty sick of this job for a while now. That's not really too much of a secret. But so the idea that it's like finally I have enough saved up to where I can take this time off, and really like for whatever apprehensions I'm feeling about, I don't know if I'll be able to make ends meet, I'm not going to have any income or whatever, like that's actually not really a concern materially speaking, because I've been saving up so much for so long to where I could do things like this deliberately and it won't be a problem. But the thought is still there, right? It's not something rational. It's just like, oh no, I'm unemployed. I'm going to be unemployed. I'm not going to be able to afford anything. Oh no. And it's like, not actually an issue in any way. But, and I think that's just like a holdover from when I first graduated from college years ago now, and I was trying to find a job pretty much anywhere in the aftermath of the financial crisis, the 2008 financial crisis to be specific, and no one was hiring. It took me forever sending out hundreds of job applications and going through the motions of interview after interview after interview with nothing really to show for it. And all the while I had this massive student loan hanging over my head, and just it was a beautiful recipe for tons and tons of anxiety all the time. And that's part of why when I finally did get a job, I made a point to, before anything else, every dollar that I earned that wasn't going into bills or food or anything like that went straight into paying off debt until I eliminated my student loan debt. It's like a first priority. I didn't go out and do anything. I didn't have anything nice to my name at that point in my life. But for me, that wasn't a priority, right? It was just paying off this debt so I would never, ever be stuck in that situation that I was in again. And it worked. But even after all this time, after now that I have all these connections and all this experience and all these credentials and all this massive portfolio of work, not just in terms of programming, but even like my art, my music, my writing, all of these other things that I could point to if I wanted to pursue some completely different kind of career path, which I might do. It's not off the table, but after all this time, just the thought of leaving this current job and not having something lined up, not having a job offer in hand where I know for a fact I don't have to worry about not making any money. I'm going to be immediately going to this other job where I'll keep making money and won't be an issue. I won't have to try and explain resume gaps or anything like that. I still feel, I can't help but feel on some level anxious about that. Because, and even if it's not rational, even if, I've run the numbers over and over again, and even with the most unfavorable turns of events, I'm pretty much can guarantee that I can at least take, the next 4 to 6 months off at the absolute least and be A-okay. It's still there. And I get that it's not rational. It's just something I feel like once I get a little further into this, like especially once I'm not having to play pretend like I actually care at work for a good little bit, and I have a moment to kind of breathe mentally and kind of relax. I think it'll clear up probably, but yeah. And like I was saying before, I do feel excited because this is like the first step in, me taking a little more direct control over the direction my life is going in, I should say, because like my first 2 jobs, the first one I had and then this one I'm leaving now, were both ones that I kind of took because I didn't have much choice. Like I said, job market at the time when I graduated was really not great, and so I took the first job that I could get my hands on, really. And it's been, decent because, I was able to pay off my debt and, get into a very stable situation financially where I could do things like sponsor VN jams and things like that. But it's not really a line of work that I feel is very fulfilling or that I can really take too much pride in. I don't want to talk too much about it, but suffice it to say that I'm planning to move away from that for good reason. And that's exciting, right? I'm really glad to be at a point in my life where I have the experience and the financial stability and all of that to be able to move to do something completely different. And it's not like something where it's fraught with instability, where I'm having to, fight desperately just to be able to make ends meet every month. It's like, no, I actually have the financial position to where that's not nearly as much of an issue. But at the same time, in addition to the anxiety over like, oh God, I don't have a job anymore, what am I going to do? Which again, I'm not too worried about that, but I also I've been feeling really, really sad about it, and about I don't know if it's a matter of because I've been at this job for so long and to see it kind of deteriorate over time. Because when I first started working at the place where I've been working at, there were coworkers who I had genuine chemistry with, and I was actually compensated fairly, and the work was really interesting. And then just over the course of the past several years, it's slowly but surely started to decline, especially like over this past year, where the business unit that I was in got sold off and to private equity. You know how that's going to go, right? Naturally, it probably comes as no surprise then why management has kind of declined in quality, and like I've seen a good few other employees, coworkers who I've known for a good little while, either they left or they've taken like extended leaves of absence, which it could end up being something similar to my own situation, where they take all their time off and then they just leave after that. And I don't know, it's like, I guess there's just something kind of sad about seeing it pass this way, because I guess it's like the end of an era in a way, or I don't know. And briefly, sometimes I was thinking like, am I making a mistake here? And I don't think so. Like to put it in perspective of what's going on at my job right now, me and probably about like a half dozen other engineers there literally do not have anything to do. So like we're billing to basically like an overhead account, which is basically just eating into the corporate profits, and leadership is on the verge of just forcing engineers to take time off. So ironically, me doing this is probably what they would have had me doing anyway, just like not even, oh, we're going to give you paid leave or anything like that. It's, we're literally going to force you to take your vacation time because we don't have anything for you to do, but that's your problem now, so see ya. Which, looking a little further into the future, leadership pinky promised that, oh yeah, don't worry, we're not going to do any layoffs, we swear. But that only holds until 2025. So if they're already like cutting funding for all these other projects and they don't have anything for the engineers that they have to do, and they're at a point now where they're like, the only option that they see is to make them just burn vacation time. I don't know about you, but that sounds to me like they might need to trim staff in the next year. And you could argue, oh, well, Kyou, if they're going to do layoffs, you should stick around, and then you can get the freaking severance pay or whatever. And, like, I've turned that over in my head a good bit, but honestly, I don't... Even that's just speculation on my part. I don't know for sure that that's actually how it would end up. For all I know, they would lay off everyone except for me, or like a bunch of people except for me, and then they would just drag me back into the office and make me do some soul-crushing whatever project. So I've not been able to justify that to myself. Plus, again, looking at my time frame of like when I want to start all this business with the immigration and like switching jobs and all that, and the fact that I want to have a good few months of time between leaving this job and starting that next one, I couldn't work it out mentally, or I couldn't work it out or in terms of like, oh yeah, I should stay and gamble to see if I end up getting severance, when it seems pretty unlikely that would end up happening. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm also just kind of sad thinking about what's led me to this point of considering immigrating to a different country. And I don't want to get into politics talking about all that. I mean, that's a factor in my decisions, but again, that's not something I want to delve into here. But the long and short of it is that I don't really feel safe or comfortable living where I do, and it seems like, from what I can gather, the things that make me feel unsafe or uncomfortable, or the general direction of how the country's being run and managed, is similar to my workplace, is only going to get worse before it gets better. And the fact that it's reached this point is just like that. I feel so alienated from the society and from the people, and despite my best efforts to try and be social, to try and go out and partake in all these things and try and see the sights and get to know the local culture and all that, and it's just the fact that it's still falling flat it's really depressing in a way, and I mean, it's not anything new, right? I've been kind of reclusive and alienated and what's the term I'm looking for? Well, reclusive works, I suppose. Kind of prone to seclusion and solitude. That's story of it's very on brand for Kyou system, but I don't know. I feel like it's the fact that it has reached kind of a boiling over point to where I feel like I have to leave this area, I have to leave this job, and that I can't just kind of have to leave this routine and status quo that I've built up for myself over the past 7 years behind. It's just, I mean, it's to be expected, right? I mean, it's a big change, and it's like, the same sort of melancholy you feel at the end of a year, right? It's like, okay, the new year is coming up. I have all these plans, all these resolutions. I'm really excited to see what the future holds for me in this next year of my life. But at the same time, it's you have all these memories and all this, all of the events of the past year that are they've come and gone now. And sure, the future may look bright, and things, like, there are definitely good things to come, but it's also just sad that it reached a point to where this change became necessary, That pretty much, I want to say, covers everything that I've had. I'm trying to think about all this, at least. I do feel a little bit better having talked about it a little more explicitly like this. It's been sort of swirling around in my head, and just, I don't know. I mean, I know I'll be all right. I mean, I'm the goddamn Kyou system. Of course I'm going to be okay. And I mean, if I was able to make it out of the situation I was in before, where, job market was terrible, I had no experience, no connections, no nothing, and I was still able to get a job, still able to get myself up out of debt and make things work then, I can certainly do it now when I have a vastly better position and mindset and pretty much everything. And so I think it's just something where once I give it a little more time, and I actually have some time away from work, because I mean, even today I was still like trying to figure out the timing of how much time I want to take off versus when do I actually quit, and all of this other bookkeeping type of stuff. Not to mention actually physically driving into the office and having the conversation with my supervisor about actually quitting and doing all of that. Which, again, I'm not ashamed to admit that it was nerve-wracking. Not necessarily because I'm intimidated by my supervisor as much as it is just, again, actually committing to making this big change and walking away from this job that is like the devil right? It's familiar, and even if I've been disrespected and underappreciated and underpaid and all of that other stuff, walking away from it is, especially without a job offer in hand from somewhere else, it's nerve-wracking, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. But in any case, once I actually have some time away from that, I feel like I'll probably feel better about all this. And worst case scenario, again, the upside of taking this approach where I'm taking this time off instead of just quitting immediately is like, okay, well, I guess if I had a dramatic change of heart and decided to stick out of this job longer, which I do not anticipate will be the case unless they make me some offer I can't refuse. Barring that, I feel like, I mean, the opportunity's there where I could turn around and be like, oh, I'll just stay. Or this would be a good opportunity while I have a few weeks off. If I really wanted to start looking for jobs right away, I could. But I feel like I really need this sabbatical. I've been so busy both at work and then with all of these other projects going on that I really could use the time off just from like everything. But I think that pretty much covers it. And yeah, I'm almost at like 25 minutes here, so I think that's about a good length for a new podcast episode, I would say. I didn't end up having anyone else join me for this one. I'm still thinking about, for future podcast stuff, that I might like to have guests or maybe join someone else on one of their podcasts. Who knows? We'll see about that in the future. But for now, at least, thank you for listening to me try and sort my way through this mess of feelings that's been swirling around in my head, and I hope you enjoyed it in some capacity. Maybe it made for good background noise at the very least. And until next time, take care.